Do you have any idea what these are or what animal they belong to? Today we're going to explore a lot of interesting things about animals, so come along as we learn all about ears. Animals have all kinds of ears, big ears and small ears. They use them mostly for listening, but also for lots of other things. Today we're going to look at a lot of different animals and their ears. Some of the animals we're going to look at live in the water, and we'll look at the special way they use their ears. Some of the animals have a special need for listening very carefully. We'll also look at some animals that have real tricky ears, different than your normal thought of an ear. One of the animals that uses his ears but has very small ones is the California sea lion. They live in the water, and as an aquatic animal can't have a great big flappy ear like a person or an elephant, and so they have very small ears that they can close so their heads don't fill up with water all the time when they're swimming like ours do. Another animal that's an aquatic animal that doesn't have big ears at all, in fact has no external ear flap, is the turtle. One of those is the snapping turtle. What it actually has is a little slit behind its ear that it can open up and hear pretty well, but later when it goes under, he shuts his ear completely so his head doesn't fill with water. Another animal that lives in the water that we have at the zoo is the pygmy hippopotamus from Africa. They have small ears like most animals that live in the water, but theirs are very movable. When they go under, their ears might get some water in them, but as they rise up, they can shake them real vigorously and get the water out. That helps them a lot, so they can continue to hear. They need to pay attention when they're listening because they don't want other animals to come and eat them. They're not nearly as large as the big Nile hippopotamus that most people are familiar with. Among the animals of the world that use their ears a great deal are the zebra. Zebras often will live in big groups and have to listen very carefully in order to keep from being eaten by animals that might be their predator, like a lion. Zebras listen very carefully with movable ears. People don't really have movable ears, though some folks can move theirs by shaking their head or moving their whole face. But many hoofed animals, like the zebra, can move theirs side to side or up and down in order to listen more carefully. Watch the zebra when it bends down to eat. His ears will remain upright, pointing up toward the sky. And when he lifts his head back up, they'll continue to point straight up. If the zebra's ears can remain pointed straight up, they'll be able to hear better and listen for predators. Another method that lots of animals use that will use their ears is to live in large groups or herds. A herd is a large group of animals living together, sometimes dozens and dozens of them. This includes the zebras and the eland and lots of other animals from the African plains. By living in large groups, they're able to use all of the eyes and all of the ears of the group to pay attention and listen and watch for predators. Often the young animals and the females will be in the center, protected by the stronger and faster males. Another animal that uses its large ears as protection is the rabbit. We have rabbits at our children's zoo, and they have very big ears, bigger than their head actually. And they'll use those ears to listen very carefully for the predators that might come after them. The predators of the rabbit include hawks and eagles that swoop down from the sky, and some mammals like bobcats and even foxes. But rabbits use their ears for other special reasons too. Their ears are very large and very thin, and they can actually lose heat through their ears, so they don't get overheated. Rabbits don't sweat like people do or horses do, so they need to lose their heat somehow, and they'll lose their body heat through their ears. At the beginning of the show, we showed you a pair of ears. Most of you probably recognized those as ears, but weren't sure what animal they came from. Before we tell you all about that animal, let's think a little bit about the ears that we learned about today. We found that most animals that live underwater have small ears that they can close or that they can move to keep from getting filled with water. We saw some animals with no ears, like snakes. Well, those aren't these. These are very big ears. Most animals with big ears use their ears either because they are hunters or they are hunted, so that they can listen very carefully, either to keep from being eaten or to find something to eat. These ears belong to the fennec fox, a desert animal that's nocturnal, which means it's more active at night than it is during the day. The fennec fox usually eats little mammals like rodents or even insects and has to listen very carefully in the dark so that it can find its food. The next time you visit the zoo, be sure to pay close attention to the ears that you see. You've learned a lot about different kinds of ears, and now you know all about ears.